Welcome back to your favorite comedy finance channel. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. So I wanted to give you guys just a quick update on what I think is happening and what the forecast is. It's more or less still the same process that we're going through with all this chop. But if you guys didn't notice, the dollar is starting to dwindle. We were at, I think, almost 108, and now we're at 106 and a half. Now there's a variety there's a variety of different circumstances that could crash the dollar, but the overall goal, no matter which variable you look at, is all about weakening the dollar. So because everything is about weakening the dollar, we could take a look at things like the bond market. We could look at, the tariffs that could affect other countries from holding dollars. There's also just, the variable of printing in general, right? Now, if you guys didn't notice, China just got through printing a fuckload of money. And, obviously, every government is going to start currency manipulating because what they need more than anything is to inject liquidity into the market. If you take a look at the reverse repo market right now, it's well under 100 billion. That's going to dry up eventually. But in the midst of all this, if one central bank is already printing money, or if other central banks are already cutting rates, then it's only a matter of time until the US starts doing the same thing. Okay. Usually the US is kind of like the last punch, the last country to do anything, it seems like. Now with CPI going up, excuse me, since CPI is going up, okay, I feel like it's only going to get hotter from here. So, I I do think that even though that everybody wants a rate cut, and they're looking for that variable of like, hey, if we cut rates, the market goes up. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I really feel like the variable for the weakening, like the variable that's going to weaken the dollar, is either going to come from I would just say coming from the bond market more than anything. But again, if other countries are cutting rates already, it's going to come around. And you just got to survive all that chop right now. A lot of the case studies that they're doing for crypto regulations not going to be done till probably the next 4 months. We might see something happen within the next year, when it comes to a bill. So, I still feel like 2026, quarter 1 and 2 are going to be like your peak cycle. Now, other than that, I did notice one thing that was it's predictable, but not alarming. But China has already talked about a virus going around, and there could be rumors. So there could be rumors of another lockdown. So if this does happen, then I mean, put it this way: I don't know if you guys, I don't know how long a lot of you guys have been with me. But you remember back in 2020, when they started printing money, they started doing lockdowns, and everybody was, afraid of this invisible enemy, right? And the invisible enemy is the government, not a virus, if anything. They're going to pretend that it's because there's a virus going around that you need to stay locked in your house. But I've always felt that this is a way to control money velocity. When you're printing that much money within a click of a button, I think what they need to do more than anything is prevent people from spending money. So if they could prevent people from spending money by lockdowns, then they could control money velocity, which means they can control a particular level of inflation. So that's kind of what I see happening there on that front. Still bullish on ABT, DIA, and SD. I'm going to stick to those, and I'm happy I have stuck to those. I did a lot of consolidating from different picks, and of course, I'm still holding ETH and MYC, but like Dragon Chain, the point of me consolidating all these extra additional picks was because I knew a lot of those extra additional picks weren't something I wanted to hold on to. And, for me, if I feel that I don't really take those projects that seriously, then, everyone else probably thinks the same. So, I consolidated a lot of my capital into ABT, SD, and DIA. And, Dragon Chain's an easy bag to make. I mean, I think it only costs, what, 5,000 just to get 100K. So it's not a lot of money just to get your 100K bag, and work it up from there. I'm always typically trying to get 100K per bag, and then kind of working on it from there. When it comes to just holding ETH, it's just more of a store value, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not really looking at it for multipliers, but I'm still very bullish on it. We saw this hack happen with Bybit. $1.5 billion got stolen apparently from North Korea. So we'll see how all that works out. I'm not really sure how a lot of these governments are going to start gutting out the crypto sector, or how they're, what they're really looking for. For me, I don't know why they're even stealing to begin with. I mean, all these guys have central banks, right? And the central banks are all organized under one conglomerate, if you really think about it. So, the politics between each government is kind of like bullshit. I'm sure there's different cultures and all that stuff, but at the very core level of the financial system, they're all running on the same chords, So to me, for people that could just create money out of thin air, then why are they stealing it? Or on top of that, it's like the U.S. government right now. It's really annoying for me because, it's such a bullshit show at this point. They're basically saying well, we found all this fraud, and because we found all this fraud, that means that we're going to roll this debt off of our balance sheet. I wish I could do that. I wish I could just sit there and be like, you know what? That credit card debt that I got or whatever, it's because I got hacked. Somebody stole my identity, and all this fraud happened. So I know the money is spent already, but I'm just going to take that off of my balance sheet. I'm going to just take that shit off, but for me and you, we get thrown out. For me and you, we just get our assets stolen. We get sued and all sorts of shit, but the government, they could sit there and make up whatever illogical excuse as to why things can continue going like the way they're going. And to me, for Elon or Trump, saying shit like, well, we found this fraud, so X amount dollars, we could remove that, and then now they're talking about maybe providing the savings of the fraud back in back to reimburse taxpayers with stimulus checks. Possibly 5K, maybe once 5K, which I think would be stupid. But it's probably what's going to happen. It's probably where we're going. If China's doing it, if all these other countries are already doing some sort of money manipulation, it's only a matter of time until the U.S. does it too. And we'll see. We'll see ultimately if this is what's going to turn into socialism. I mean, we were kind of seeing it kind of creep in, and who knows what the real number will be when it comes to UBI. But at the end of the day, inflation is going to kick off harder. Inflation rate target probably will be raised from 2%. It is arbitrary. So it is a good variable that they could just say, well, the target's 3%, everything's fine. There's a lot of different things that could happen versus just the one variable of printing when it comes to the weakening of the dollar. One thing for certain is UBI is going to come together at some point. And I don't know exactly what they'll call it, but again, they're finding fraud of spent money that's already spent, money that already bought something, and then saying, no, that doesn't count. And because that money doesn't count, that X figure, well, we're going to reimburse the taxpayers. What's pissing me off about government in general is they could spend over 100 years knowing they're stealing and robbing you, and they put some change of the